Good afternoon, everyone. So my PhD topic is about the effects of tobacco products on oral tissues, and I would like to present my 9 months progress. My name is Orsolya Vámos. I am a second-year resident at the Department of Prosthodontics, and I am a first-year PhD student. My vision is to spread awareness of the harmful effect of tobacco products, and I would like to promote prevention and cessation. To achieve this, my mission is to make a comparison on the effects of traditional and alternative tobacco products. So here you can see the list of my specific goals. Currently, I am working on 2 systematic review and meta-analyses. I started the first one in September and the second one in December. So let's move on to my first topic, which is investigating the effect of tobacco products on peri-implant tissues. So peri-implant diseases are defined as inflammatory lesions of the surrounding peri-implant tissues. Peri-implant mucositis involves only the mucosa, while peri-implantitis involves the mucosa and also the underlying bone structure. If these are not treated properly, patients can lose implants. As we know, smoking is one of the main risk factors of peri-implant diseases, and its role has been numerously investigated in many studies. But in recent years, alternative tobacco products are gaining more and more popularity. For example, electronic cigarettes, water pipes, and smokeless tobacco. And people generally think that they are a safer alternative to traditional smoking. But actually, there is a lack of evidence about them, so that's why we want to investigate it. For the clinical question, we want to know if there is a difference in peri-implant health status of different types of tobacco product users compared to non-smokers. We want to examine healthy patients with dental implants who are smoking some kind of tobacco product, and we want to compare them to non-smokers. For the primary outcome, we want to investigate the peri-implant crestal bone loss, and for the secondary outcome, the different clinical parameters, for example, the probing pocket depth, the bleeding on probing, the plaque index, and the different cytokine levels. So for the hypothesis, we think that different types of tobacco product users have worse clinical, radiographic, and immunological peri-implant parameters compared to non-smokers. And why is this important? Because, as I have mentioned, smoking is one of the main risk factors of peri-implantitis, and with this comparison, we want to make an education material for community dentistry. So our systematic search was conducted in 4 electronic databases in November with this following search key. And as you can see, at first, we got more than 10,000 articles, but after the title text selection and the full text selection, there were 39 eligible articles, which we can include. So for the outcomes, all of the effect measures were mean and standard deviation, and here you can see the list of our outcomes, so the marginal bone loss, the variety of clinical parameters, and the immunological parameters, for example, the tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin-1 beta. But we have a little bit shortage of time, so that's why I want to speak about the first 2. So let's move on to my primary outcome, which is the marginal bone loss. It was measured in millimeter. So here you can see the geometry of our network. I want to explain it a little bit. So these little dots, so the nodes of the network representing the different types of tobacco products, and these lines connecting them are the direct comparisons between each product. So in this network, we included 25 eligible articles, of which 6 were multi-arm studies, and we were able to make 8 direct comparisons out of the 10 possible ones. So in this figure, you can see our results in a rankogram. So in a rankogram, lighter colors mean higher ranking, which is associated with smaller outcome values. So this means that non-smokers presented the smallest marginal bone loss, followed by electronic cigarette users, and smokeless tobacco users were ranked on the 5th place, meaning that they had the biggest marginal bone loss, with the biggest inflammation around their implants. The next figure is the heat plot. In this heat plot, you can see the pairwise comparisons between each product. And we can see that when we compared traditional cigarette, water pipe, and smokeless tobacco users to non-smokers, we experienced statistically significant differences, which were also clinically relevant. Let's move on to my second outcome, which was the probing pocket depth. It was also measured in millimeter. And we included 18 articles in this network. 2 of them were multi-arm studies, and we were able to make 7 direct comparisons out of the 10 possible ones. So on the rankogram, we can again see that non-smokers presented the smallest probing pocket depth, followed by electronic cigarette users, then the Translational cigarette users, on the 4th place the water pipe users, and again 5th place the smokeless tobacco users. In the heat plot, again, we experienced statistically significant differences when we compared traditional cigarette smokers, water pipe users, and smokeless tobacco users to non-smokers. So what are the strengths and the limitations of this analysis? First of all, this was the first meta-analysis comparing 4 types of tobacco products and non-smokers, and we were able to make direct comparisons between most products. And also we evaluated a variety of outcomes. But we had some limitations because we can only include observational studies, but actually randomized clinical trials are not possible in this subject. And also in some of our outcomes, we can only include a small number of studies resulting in a weaker network. And we also experienced a high heterogeneity in patient characteristics. In conclusion, we can say that non-smokers presented the best peri-implant parameters, and smoking any type of tobacco product compromised peri-implant health. So what is the implication for practice? We should raise awareness of the harmful effects of tobacco products on peri-implant health, and we should dispel the misbelief that alternative tobacco products are not harmful. And for the implication for research, we need more multi-arm studies for direct comparisons, and we need greater transparency of confounding factors. For example, the smoking habit and the oral hygiene, because these influence the results. So my manuscript is written, but I still need some minor revision, and then we can hopefully send it to internal review. And our target journal is the journal called Tobacco Control, which is a D1 journal in the category of public health. So let's move on to my second topic, which is investigating the impact of smoking status and electronic cigarette use on non-surgical periodontal therapy. So periodontal diseases consist of gingivitis and periodontitis, and these are actually the 11th most prevalent condition in the world. And if these are not treated, they can cause major tooth loss. So subgingival debridement, like scaling and root planing, can be an effective treatment in reducing probing pocket depth and improving the clinical attachment level. But as we know, smoking can influence the success of this treatment, and many people are using electronic cigarettes as a safer alternative. So our aim was to investigate the effect of traditional and electronic cigarette use on clinical outcomes of non-surgical periodontal therapy compared to non-smokers. Our clinical question, is smoking traditional or electronic cigarettes have a negative effect on clinical outcomes on non-surgical periodontal therapy compared to non-smokers? And again, for the population, we included healthy patients with periodontitis undergoing non-surgical periodontal therapy who were either traditional cigarette or electronic cigarette smokers, and compared them to non-smokers. And for the outcomes, we evaluated the clinical parameters, for example, the probing pocket depth and clinical attachment loss and plaque index. So our hypothesis is that smoking traditional or electronic cigarettes has a negative effect on clinical outcomes on non-surgical periodontal therapy compared to non-smokers. We conducted our systematic search in 4 electronic databases, and we are doing the title abstract selection with my pair. Here you can see an overview of my project. I plan to submit this article soon and the second one in September. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for the nice presentation. By the time they are thinking, do I understand correctly that smokeless tobacco is worse than smoking?
Yeah.
So why is that? What is the reason for this?
Thank you for the question. I think the reason behind this is the mechanism of the tobacco use. So actually smokeless tobacco should be placed here in the vestibule of the mouth, and maybe this is causing plaque accumulation, and that's why it is influencing more implants.
So it's mostly the local plaque accumulation which is the reason behind, rather than a direct effect maybe on the mucosal blood flow.
Yeah, so and it also has a direct effect on the mucosa, and it can actually cause like hyperkeratosis and so on.
Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Thank you. I think you remember that I asked you several times this about electronic cigarettes as well, and I would have been much happy if you have the second project results as well now. But what do you think comparing the electronic cigarettes, which are just heating up basically starch liquids and nicotine together, none of which is biologically active in a very bad way on the mucosa. But still, I told you my experience that I smoked tobacco for some years more, some years less, and I never felt any mucosal problems. But when I'm working overnight and using the e-cigarettes sometimes for some hours, in the next 3 days I have continuous bleeding from my gums. Do you know any studies assessing the difference between them? Why is that? What is the product?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So actually electronic cigarettes also contains like toxic ingredients. So the liquid consists of like vegetable glycerin and propylene glycol, but as it is heated up, acetaldehyde and formaldehyde is formed, which is toxic to the gingiva. But also like traditional cigarettes contain more harmful chemicals, but so yeah.
Thank you.
Please.
Not a very short question. Based on your results, can you plan some in vitro experiments in order to compare these different types of smoking? For example, adding this composition of liquid to the cells in order to see whether there is a damage or a production of inflammatory cytokines or so on. So it could help to design some in vitro.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Actually, we were thinking about an in vitro study in this topic. So we wanted to experiment with the liquids of the electronic cigarette to add to the cells, so the epithelial cells, and see if they are more or less harmful. Or maybe another method for this, that we filter the smoke or the vapor through the liquid, and we store liquid, and then we pour it to the cells, to the cell culture, and see the results, so which is more cytotoxic.
Thank you very much.